Welcome, everybody. It's 10 o'clock. We got a lot of ground to cover. So let's get started. I'd like to welcome you all to the 4D v20 release webinar. It's a momentous webinar. It's a major version change, and there's a ton of new features that have gone into v20, and it's an amazing work that the entire team has been working on over the past few years to lay the groundwork to make this transition so seamless. So first off, with me is Komoncharoensiri, who's the Director of Technical Services in 4D United States. And my name is William Taylor, and I am the Technical Account Manager of 4D US. So without further ado, let's get going. So 4D v20, there's been a ton of work that's gone into 4D v20. And 4D v20 is actually, if we all remember the feature release, 4D v20 starts with 4D v19, and then every single feature release that we deliver like clockwork every 3 months receives new features. Those features build upon themselves. And then at the end of the 2-year development cycle, after 4D 19 R8, rather than going to R9, what we do is we go to 4D v20. At that point, it's a major version change. All of the features that were developed in 4D v19 R8 are now available for you in 4D v19. Why is this important? A long time ago, what used to happen is whenever there was a major version change, there would be a ton of work that was done in the background. Most developers didn't get to see those changes, and then everything was delivered to the end users and the developers in one fell swoop. And so much change created a lot of havoc in every single version. So what we decided to do is make standard release cycles and make sure that every version is fully tested, fully vetted. So any feature that's gone into R2, for example, 18 R2 has now had almost 2 years of testing and support and all bug fixes that have gone along to it. So what you have right now is a incredibly stable major release, thanks to the effort throughout that whole process. So, and there has been a ton of work. This webinar is going to cover just a part of it. And this webinar is mainly going to cover developer things for you, the developer, because as you see here, this is from the what's new overview of 4D, or what's it called? What's new in 4D page. And as you can see, every single topic is an entire feature set, is an entirely new feature for you to be able to use in your 4D application. So there's just too much to handle here. We need to, and what we'll do is we'll definitely just focus on the developer related features that I think that interest you, the developers. So, and as you see, we have gone with the times, and we decided a long time ago that we decided to go pink for this, and it just so happens that pink is a super hot color. I'm not sure what came first, 4D v20 or Barbie, but I think definitely pink was a wise choice for this year. So super cool. We're happy to and Ad and I are really happy to show off the work of the entire team. So the way that this is going to kind of work, 4D release webinar, I'd like to thank you all for that. I've been here since the beginning. We've been doing this now for a few years. I think it's really fun to just take a time and review all of the features that have been going into 4D. And what we do is we Ad and I present the features, kind of talk about some use cases and some main topics. Usually this one is going to be developers focused, so there's going to be a lot of talks about the development features, and then a little bit in 4D or Write Pro. And after each section, let's say, there's going to be some time for question and answers, and where I'll take a pause and Ad and I will do our best to answer your questions based on our knowledge and do our best to answer your questions. If you do have a question, feel free to write the question in the Q&A portion. That allows us to track the questions. That way we know what's been answered, what hasn't been answered, and then we can go from there. So sometimes the chat can get a little funky. So please ask your questions in the Q&A section. So without further ado, let's get going. So these are the development features that we're going to be talking about that interest you, the developer. So the WebSocket protocol provides a persistent full duplex communication channel between a client and a server. It enables for real-time data transfer between the two parties, allowing for faster and more efficient communication. And 40v20, a WebSocket is a general technical term, but now we've integrated that in 40v20, and we built a WebSocket server that allows for 40 developers to create real-time web applications that can handle large amounts of data and provide a seamless experience for the user. Now, this opens up a major world of possibilities for real-time data visualization, collaborative applications, and IoT applications that require constant updates. For example, sensors, sensors in factory equipment, things like that. And then to manage your WebSocket server, 40 provides these two new classes, the 40 WebSocket server and WebSocket connection classes. Now, if you're interested in learning about a general overview of what a WebSocket server is in a really clear and concise demo, I invite you to join and to rewatch Thomas Mall's demonstration on the topic. He provided a great demonstration in the 40 method meeting on the topic, and it was a great intro into what a WebSocket server was. It was very clearly done, and he took it step by step and really dug in. And if you want to, if that really piques your interest, and then you want to know more, I invite you to read Nat's tech note on kb.40.com on the same topic. So objects and collections can now be initialized in your code using the new object and new collection commands. That's the way you've been doing it since they showed up in 4D. Now, 40v20 has introduced a new and more readable syntax for initializing large or complex objects in your code. It's called the object literal or the collection literal. So object literals let you initialize an object with the properties and values enclosed in curly braces like here. See what you have here, object 1 is equal to the curly brace. That's the same as object 1 being set to new object. And you have this way of setting two equivalent objects, object 1 and object 2. Object 1, everything is done inside of the curly braces. And then object 2, everything is done with new object and new collection. So as you can see, it's a slick new way to do what you've been doing already in a more concise way. Okay. So in software development, CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous development, has become a standard practice. Now, every time your code is changed, automatic actions such as testing, compiling, building, delivering, and sometimes even just deploying the application are performed in order to ensure that your code is of high quality and can be easily integrated in your current systems. This is the way that 4D works. Every time the 40 developer makes a change under the hood, it sets off a whole slew of tests, automated tests that get run on a variety of computers all throughout the day. So, and that's how we are able to ensure such high levels of stability and backwards compatibility with such a small development team, and also such a and we're also able to provide as many features as we do. So 40v20 brings a new application called Tool4D. Now, Tool4D is a free, lightweight, standalone 40 application, allowing you to open up a 40 project in headless mode and to execute some 40 code using the command line interface. Now, there are many use cases for Tool for 4D. You can compile your application. You can integrate this into your CI/CD pipeline using Git actions or Git, using Git, standard actions in Git. So whenever you do a commit, you do things. You can use this to perform maintenance on your application, like checking if the server, checking to see if anybody's connected to the server. If you want to check the server data file and make sure no users are currently connected to the server, you can do that. So, and the Tool4D, I had a look on the forums and I saw some people are already starting to discuss this, and it was quite interesting. So very cool for the early adopters. Tool4D is available for download on the product download site and will be versioned like any 40 application. And have a look at the documentation in the blog post and the discussions of your peers in the forums. Someone even just mentioned Tool4D, very cool in the comments. So I'm in agreement with you. So a 40 analyzer, 40's VS Code, Visual Studio's code extension has attracted a lot of attention from our 40 developers. Mainly the developers that work in a variety of different languages based on what they're doing. Some work in 40, PHP, Perl, Python, all sorts of different things. And they want to have everything in the same editor. 40 editor, current code editor is still the place to write 40 code, but if you're working across, we now allow you, if you're working across multiple languages, we now allow or work really well with Visual Studio's code for you to support that. So, and if you haven't heard, 40 provides a support for Visual Studio's code editor, which can handle 40 code and comes with the standard features such as syntax highlighting, go-to definitions, signature help, and code completion. And with each new version of 4D, we bring new features to this 40 analyzer. These new features include document, syntax checking, code collapsing, and code indentation for you to be able to have a better look on your application when you open it in VS Code. And we'll continue to add features to this with every feature release, so that you have a more seamless usage, but if you need to use Visual Studio's code. And the find and replace feature in the code editor has been around for many years. Developers can use it to quickly and efficiently find and replace code, especially in large code bases. And 40v20 brings improvements that are sure to be appreciated by you, the developers, who rely on this feature to streamline your workflows, like detecting the number of occurrences to replace in the editor, knowing the position of the current occurrence, and having constant access to the back buttons. And also, what's really cool is now when you see, for example, you take this picture here, the on mobile app connection method, we're looking for request, and it highlights every single request, which is a very cool feature. And many developers have been asking for new features and what they called modernization in the forums, in the feature request, and this is us putting in those modernization topics, modernization features. So very cool, and more to come in upcoming releases. And retrieving a list of unique data elements is always helpful when you are manipulating your data. In some cases, you need to retrieve the number of occurrences as well. So with 40v20, you can do this with one simple optional parameter to the distinct function. Now, the function is identical for both classes, for entity and collections, entity selections and collections. And always keeping in mind with backwards compatibility, this is just an optional parameter. If you continue to use your distinct, the distinct function, it still works as normal. So very cool. So yeah, as you see here, we have a collection, simple one, family, friend, work, family, personal, and you count the values in that collection. It returns the value and the count. Super simple and optimized with the 40 engine. So if you're doing it by yourself, if you rolled your own, we recommend you go to this one as it's more optimized in the 40 engine. So, and with the introduction of order and other objects in 4D, developers often are having to work in kind of with undefined values, which can sometimes cause errors, runtime errors, to occur when you're using these values to compare to other values. So that's pretty frustrating. So you need to be really defensive with our code. And 4D of v20 offers you a new way to provide a new way for you, the developer, to be more defensive with your code. So starting with v20, a new enhancement has been introduced that allows developers to compare any type of value to an undefined value without causing an error. This means you can now safely compare undefined values to others without worrying about causing runtime errors. Those values, those comparator values are equal sign, not equal sign, and greater than or equal, and greater than, less than, and equal than. So as you see here, the first one, the comparison, the equal sign comparison value returns true when you compare it to 10, or returns false because it's not 10. So it's not 10, but you're not going to be returning an error, even though the object is undefined. The not equal to 10, and if you ask it to be if you ask not object to be not equal to 10, for example, that's actually going to return true because it's not equal to 10, it's undefined. And in the same vein as greater than, less than, or equal to, those all will return false as well, because it's not any of those operators. So it's not less than or equal to or greater or less than or greater than any of those operators. So it's a very cool, slick way for you to be able to test your undefined values without causing errors. So, and next is a feature that when I was discussing the features with Ad, all the v20 features, his face lit up when he saw this feature. And he said he's been asking for this one for a long time. And I'm going to pass the mic to him because he really wanted to talk about this feature. So I'd go for it.
Yeah, so for those of you guys who doing a lot of print jobs, so what I found this feature to be super useful is when I'm trying to build something dynamic. So in the past, I can still do dynamic stuff just based on the object name and then assign a value. But having this feature available for me to pass in a form data into a form, a predefined form, and then have all those information bound to a specific object, that's very useful. I find it to be super convenient. For this example, very easy example. So if you have a print form and you want to, create a form that is generic, that each column can be anything, you can name your object or define the form data object to be bound to a particular element. You can even define the element name to be so generic, so you can change switch in and out very quickly. So this is going to be super convenient. Another example is a If you go to the next slide, Will.
Yeah.
Is when you're doing a form load. Again, this is usually used when you're doing a print job, like, through print object. So definitely once the object is being defined and passed into the form, so you have the context that you have available for any of your object that you want to print, and you can bind them very easily. So this is an example of using the form data to print the list box inside of a print job that you want to print out. So yeah, definitely, this is going to come in very handy. I can already see several projects myself that can take advantage of this feature. Hopefully, some of you guys feel the same way too. I know that there's a lot of print functionality in every 40 database out there. So hopefully it'll be useful for you guys.
Cool. Thank you, Ad. Thank you for the discussion. And with 40v20, you can now create a customized help menu for your application by passing a collection that describes the menu items. This way you can provide your users with a more robust help. Like you can have your all sorts of different things. You can have your help broken up into, for example, Keynote, keyboard shortcuts, formulas and functions help, except service and support. So you can do all that sort of thing inside of a dedicated help menu now, making your application more streamlined and your users are then able to then see your application, use your application in the same way that they use other applications really easily. So you can define the title of the menu item. You can define the action, the default action to be performed when the menu is invoked. You can find the method name. You can find the method that's called to be executed when the method is invoked. You can call a worker if you want from there. And you can also define the keyboard shortcut and keyboard shortcuts to trigger the menu shortcut key commands. So super cool, very helpful way for you to create a more robust and streamlined application with 4D. And next, 4D provides a number of functions for manipulating collections. In addition to more than the 40 methods already provided in the previous versions, this version offers a few interesting ones that I want to quickly go over here. Now we have the first and last command, which you guessed it, provides the first and last element in the collection. So very good. Now you have the at function, and the at function provides you with the element in the collection that is at that single point. And if you put in -1, I believe it gives you the top. So I'll give you the first element. And that's instead of using the square brackets, now you can use using a square bracket notation. Now you can use the at notation. And the flat function is more innovative, a little more innovative, we think, and useful in some cases. It allows for the flattening of collections that may contain collections within collections within collections. So maybe you've had the point where you have a couple of collections, you have too many, and you just want to make it into one, let's say two-dimensional or one-dimensional kind of collection. You can call the flat function, and then that would then return a flattened collection. So super cool. Includes this, the includes function is handy because it allows you to know if a collection contains a specific element of almost any type: text, number, Boolean, or date, the null value, and even references to objects or collections. So you can use that to check to see what you have. So And then the reduce write, this is interesting as well. Oh, do I have a, oh, okay, reduce write, which is the optimized equivalent of reverse and reduce. So two commands, so it's just an optimized version. So if you're calling reverse, then reduce, we recommend you switch over to reversed write as it's optimized with the 40 engine. And then the flat map function, which allows you to perform a map function followed by the flat function, creating a new collection, a new flat mapped collection. So now if you're wondering about the nitty-gritty of these commands and are after some non-trivial use cases, I invite you to read developer.40.com and you'll find all the information that you need there. Okay, the PDF format is now a viable alternative to XPS for print previewing on Windows, offering users a new and more accessible option. Microsoft's decisions to make the XPF viewer an optional Windows feature has caused many developers to call me and 40 tech support because as it's an optional feature, and as it's an optional feature and not a standard feature, many people do not necessarily want to install it and are wondering, because it now is optional, what is the future of XPS and how is 40 going to respond to that? And even though it's really easy to install the current XPS viewer, sub administrators are still reluctant to install any additional functionality into a server, especially in remote desktop environments. So fortunately for you, the developer, 40 v20 now provides the ability to use the PDF format for print previews. With either XPS or PDF pre-installed on almost all current versions of Windows, end users should no longer have problems with print preview. This new option provides a more flexible and efficient solution that meets the needs for both your users, the developer, and the administrator. And even though this is automatic, we still are providing you, the developer, with control. And in 40 v20, you now have the print set option and get print option commands that support you in order to get your print previewing jobs done right. So, and now onto some interesting email features with POP3 and IMAP. When retrieving email messages using POP3, it is possible to retrieve only the message header, which contains information such as sender, subject, and date, without downloading the entire body of the message. And starting with 40 v20, the get mail function of the POP3 transporter has been extended. The POP3 transporter has been extended with the get mail function, with a new parameter that allows you to retrieve the emails without getting the full body. Now, this function can be even more useful if you're integrating with Gmail, for example, since it does not trigger the deletion of those read emails, for example. Now, retrieving only the message headers can be useful if you want to quickly browse the list of messages in your mailbox to decide which ones you want to read in full. So say spam email, and then you get that 40 events.40.com email, you want to click into that one. So you got to go there. So allows you to quickly browse and view. And the IMAP protocol inside the transporter has also been extended to support the following. The add flags and remove flags function now accepts arbitrary words as keywords for flagging mail in any way you see fit. And the select box function returns the list of flags allowed. And the select box function returns the list of flags allowed in the current mailbox through the dot flags and permanent flags attributes. So people, if you are integrating with POP3 and IMAP email, we recommend you going to v20 to support your new features, the new out-of-the-box features. So super cool. And if you're integrating with Microsoft 365, it's a little bit different because Microsoft 365 rejects the basic authentication for IMAP and POP3 protocols, which means users must use a more secure authentication method to access their email data. More secure generally means more complicated, and this more secure way is through the Graph API. And that's a secure modern way to access data in Microsoft 365, including your email data. So in order to answer this difficulty for you, the developer, 4D has an open source component called 4D NetKit. We developed this in part to support you with your connection from 4D to Microsoft 365 via the secure vehicle of Graph API. And with every new version of 4D comes new versions and new functionalities that get implemented into the 4D NetKit component. You can now use the Microsoft Graph API to manage your mailboxes, creating, deleting, renaming, and retrieving information. So, and this 4D NetKit is available for you and anybody on 4D's GitHub. And with every new release, as I said, more features are coming in. So, and if you are integrating with Microsoft 365 and you need a specific feature to be developed and exported, feel free to put the request in the discuss.4d.com feature request, and so we can get it evaluated. That way, you can have an easier time integrating the features your end user needs into your application. And I invite you to read all the blog posts and the documentations if you're looking to do a full integration with Microsoft 365 in your 4D database. Now, next, onto UI updates. So to help you design and keep on designing the most beautiful interfaces, a bunch of new options are available. For buttons, radio buttons, and checkboxes, we have added settings for the text and icon. So such things like text alignment and image hugs title are there. So those are two features that are now CSS commands or in the editor, the form editor, for you to be able to use. And for radio buttons and checkboxes, we have improved the number of states. So we grew the number of states that you have. So we have for multi-state buttons and checkboxes, you now have a bunch of different ones. You have false, true, false rollover, true rollover, false disable, true disable. And for what that actually means, we can have a look right here. So that's false. It was enable them. And you have a bunch of different states that you previously did not have for your buttons. It's very cool. So when you roll over, it changes the colors. When it's false and you roll over, when it's true, it's roll over. So it's just the extension of all of the kind of combinations of states that you can have. So that was a lot of new developer features that should be very interesting to you. Let's go to the questions. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A as they come up, and we'll take the time to review them. First question is, any difference in the order distinct command and the classic distinct values command? I think the distinct values command is for arrays.
Well, the result is not there's no different in terms of the actual result that you're getting, except that you are working with classic selection or order selection, and the format of the result is, as you can see, if you're calling it from order, you will be getting an object containing different result set. In the classic distinct values command, you'll be getting the pair, the arrays one array containing distinct value. You can give an additional array as a third parameter to receive the number of counts. So essentially they work the same way with the different format as a result. And also in the order context, actually the distinct command function also exists for collection to be used in the same fashion as well.
Someone asked, yeah, what does the max long do when you call flat? And I think that just just looking at the documentation,
It's the depth of how far you want to go, right? Because in your collection, you could have objects that has another level. So it really depends on the depth of the flattened depth that you want to go as far as you want to create the result.
Yeah, and for a so yeah, and the max long is just kind of do everything. Go have every single layer. The layer defaults to 1. The default layer is to 1, so have only. It's how deep a nested collection structure should be flattened.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's 1, if so it defaults to 1, it just shifts over 1. So if you have 3, it'll just the third one will become the second one, etc. And then if you do max long, it'll all just go into a line. But again, those kind of nitty-gritty details can all be found and discussed with better examples than what I'm going to give you in developer.40.com. Someone asks, what is the recommended height of the button's image and the button itself?
Yes, this is tricky to answer. Every time when we're dealing with UI, it's a matter of preference. Usually, it depends on the size of your screen and the size of your content. Some button can be smaller, and therefore the image will be smaller. Usually, it's difficult to define the size of the image inside of a button. 32,
I think
24.
Yeah, it depends on if you have what type of screen you have too. If you have a touch screen, buttons are bigger on an iPad, for example, or in a mobile environment, or even if you look at developer.40.com, it's mainly just 4 buttons, documents, and the various different, and they're 4 big buttons. So there's no recommended anything. That's kind of the hard part with UI design.
Now in the Q&A section, very excited about the preview fix to be able to set to open PDF instead of XPS. Thanks. Yeah, definitely. This is a long time coming. Many of our customers, you guys have been asking for a way to get away from the XPS. So this is definitely going to help.
So someone asked, is it true that upgrading to 40 v20 will prevent rolling back to 19R8? In binary mode, the answer is yes.
It's only, yeah, there's a couple of attributes here. If you are in project mode, and if you don't use any features specific for version 20, you can go back to R8, 19R8. So anytime that you are using a specific feature for that particular release, you kind of prevent yourself from going back. But because of the project mode, it's different than binary. You can go back and forth as long as you stay within the requirement.
Cool. And so I'm going to pop into the next and kind of the next category, which is 40 Write Pro. And 40 Write Pro is really the throughout 40 v19 feature release cycle and before, 40 Write Pro has really been positioned as the ultimate document creation tool, and it's really for you and for your end users. You are allowed. It works really well. You're able to create beautiful documents with all of the data that you need and then exporting it, converting it to PDF, saving it off for printing, or into a computer file location. So you're able to do all sorts of things that you were never able to do with 40 Write in 40 Write Pro, and it's just a great feature, and should definitely, if you're not using it for your document creation and your report generation, we definitely recommend you getting into it. 4019 R8 allowed for the creation of text boxes. Text boxes allow you to insert a floating container anywhere in your document, really, that includes text, tables, images, formulas, and other elements. Now, this feature has now been improved. Every new feature release, we add a little bit more, whether to allow for you to decide as the developer whether or not you would like that to either be imported or exported to or from your 40 Write Pro area. So again, we added the feature, and now we're allowing you more control over an iterative cycle, over a 3-month iterative cycle. It's super cool. And if you're not using them, they can be very good for having a floating address, for example, or doing things like that, or depending on if you want to print it, you want it one way, or saving it off to a computer, you don't want that floating address. So it's very cool. And then 40 v20 gives you another feature to easily make complicated lists with broken up data, and allows you to break your data up into a variety of different groups. That is called break rows, what we're calling break rows, and grouping made simple. So say you have a list of data, for example, a list of people with their continents, countries, and cities, and you want to group them by those things: continents, country, and then city. This makes, in order to make the end report easier to analyze, for someone to just quickly look and be able to get the information that they want to get. So it's super easy to do in 40 Write Pro. Now, when you're populating the data from a sorted data source, 40 Write Pro can insert row breaks as soon as the value of a sort criterion changes. So you set your criteria, continent, you set your groupings criteria, and then it'll sort it for you. And this way, the user can group the data according to the criteria that they want. So you set the grouping: city, country, continent, country, state, city, community, etc. And even what's even cooler is that in 4D, we like to make your life of the developers easier. So Ad actually had a need for this in a project he was working on, and he thought this was a great idea, and it is a great idea. And a few months ago, or almost a year ago now, I guess, he made a tech note showing you how to do this. And it was such a big hit that the team really loved that idea, and they decided to then, rather than having the work that Ad did to create this in his tech note explaining how he did it all, they took the thought and effort that Ad did and then implemented inside of the product, making your life, the developer, more easy. So very cool. And then here is kind of a demo on how it works. So you can do it either programmatically with the WK break formula command. You can define the break items. So you can sum on the salary, and here's a really, on the blog, it has a very concise and clear example of how this actually works. So you see, you have your 40 Write Pro area, you have your thing, you have your table in there, you have all sorts of different sorts of mixing of the data, and it really goes through and how the relations and how you're pulling all the data from everywhere. So it's super cool. well done. And if you've been struggling with creating complicated lists with grouped data, then by all means, have a look at this and you'll be able to go from there. And you see all sorts of different breakups. You're sorting by continent, then city, then continent, country, city. You're sorting by company, bringing in a relationship, sorting by company, and then continent, so things like that. So super easy ways to make complicated things, making complicated things simple with these breakers. So very cool. So those are the main developer features that I can see in 40 that and I saw in 40 Write Pro. And I'm sure you've heard, and I hope you've all signed up, because if you're here, that means you're interested in the latest and greatest in 4D. And the 4D Summit 2023 is back on. We're really excited to see all of you in either Atlanta or Paris, hopefully Atlanta, because that's going to be a really fun place but they both are, but it's going to be a very tight, intense event with a lot of great masterclasses put on by a great team of speakers. And I'm going to quickly go over the masterclasses that we will be presenting. So there's going to be 7 main masterclasses in 1 main hall. So everything is going to be masterclasses at this summit. Masterclasses. There's not going to be the breakout sessions. So you're not going to have to worry about, oh, if I see this one, I won't be able to catch this one. So there's none of that. We're staying laser focused on 7 great topics and discussions for you. And here they are. Unlock the power of query, mastering data class searches in your 4D application. So this is going to be done by Bérangère and Olivier Deschanel, 2 4D experts that work. I work a lot with them on our DCAs, our deep code analysis, and we are going to kind of take everything we've learned from reviewing so many applications over the years, and he's going to show you the best he's going to show you how to unlock the power of query, to use query to your advantage in your application. Use it well, use it great, make a lot of sense. So the next one, it will be done by Akim, the Director of Technical Services in Germany, and that's 4D Write Pro and 4D View Pro. Meet 4D v20, the next level of smart templating. And that's going to be a discussion about ways in which you can use 4D Write and 4D Write Pro and 4D View Pro to template in your application. So you can have beautiful documents, easily well done, and standardized across and standardized. So awesome. And Keske is going to dive deep into system workers. So 4019 and v20 has a lot of new features with system workers, and he took on the task of reviewing that. And as always, he'll give a great presentation on that topic. And then also, he's going to be talking about ways in which you can build your application in advanced ways. So I'm interested to see what he will be showing there. And I'll turn it over to Ad so he can present his topic, scale your web server.
Yes, so web server has been around in 40 for many versions now, and there's so many evolution and milestone all over the place. There's one of the things that we want to focus, or I want to focus for this class, is to make sure that you know how to scale your web server the right way. There's several options that you can think of, but some of them probably might not be as obvious as you could think. There's so many ways to fine tune and tweak, making sure that your application can maintain the level of productivity and speed while allowing your application to scale up, increasing the number of users, process, and data size. So yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, it's going to be a really good one. And if you are thinking or already have been working with 4D web technology, you're definitely gonna like this.
Thank you, Ed. I'm really looking forward to that one. And next one is going to be done by Hafid and Omar, two 4D developers and project management in the Morocco team. And that's going to be project mode and continuous integration, continuous delivery. So CI/CD. So what I spoke about before, how does 4D look? How does 4D work in a CI/CD process? What are the pitfalls? How can you use the modern software development practices with your 4D to provide a better application, a more stable application to your end users, banking off the tools that exist around. So, and that's going to come from, and we've been working on many projects with many professional services projects that we've done exactly that, and we have great success. So both of these two are great people to talk about that. And last but not least, we have one more super secret topic that we're not allowed to talk about yet, but it's going to definitely revolutionize the way 4D developers develop applications going forward. So nothing's going away with 4D, but we definitely have a major extension within 4D and within the 4D community and within the 4D umbrella that will allow you to develop really cool new applications for your end users. So if any of those, I think those hit all major topics for everybody. So if you're not signed up, I definitely recommend signing up, contact your sales representative, respond to one of the emails, and we'll get back to you. We're really looking forward to seeing as many people as possible in Atlanta. It's going to be a fun event. As I said, intense, a lot of learning, and it'll be great to see everybody together in one place again. It's been 5 years since we were all able to meet. And someone asked, is the One More Thing presentation the same in Atlanta and Paris? Yes, it is. All of the presentations will be the same in Atlanta or Paris. There will just be 2 tracks in Paris, one for French speaking and one for English speaking, but the content will be the same. Good question. All right. And as always, I invite you to do what I do, read the blog. With every new feature release, there's a slew of blog posts. It's great. It's my starting point to these new features, to learning about these new features. And it really is a great location that provides you with great examples, oftentimes a how do I, and it's written by the owner of that product owner. So it really is the real reason why we're doing these things. So it's a great wealth of knowledge, and I invite you to read it. And I want to say thank you to you, the 4D developers, making 4D such a great product. All of your ideas, keep them coming in to discuss.4d.com. We'll listen to everybody, and we like to, I want to say thank you for all of you early adopters. And yeah, and I believe there'll be some feedback requested. So please feel free to provide your feedback to even our webinar. So with that, I'm going to say thank you all, and we hope to see you in October, on October 3rd in Atlanta. So take care, y'all.